definition of boxing. Please look up the definition of boxing.
It depends. Most people say that the art of boxing is to hit and not get hit. But that's the what. It's not the how. The first thing that anyone has to do to learn boxing is one, you have to understand cognitive bandwidth. That's how much you can hold up here in your brain. So you can't have mindset and you can't have strategy if you don't have a cognitive bandwidth. You're running the cognitive load and all of it'll crash.
Like all them punches add up, you know, punches in sparring add up.
Two, the next thing they'll need is understanding structure integrity. This is the physical part of boxing. This is drilling muscle memory. When they drill the muscle memory properly, then everything else aligns itself. And none of it works without number three, is what we call organized nervous system. If an athlete goes into a fight and his nervous system isn't organized, all of the stuff that he learned before, the minute pressure spikes, everything goes kaput.
And then it just all hit him out of the blue.
That's why you see it every weekend. Somebody comes up short because of cognitive load. So those are the three areas. They don't call it just plain boxing unless you're talking about fitness. When you talk about executing in the fight game, this is why they call it the sweet science of boxing, because it's not about what you do, it's how you do it and what's the mechanism behind this thing called boxing. Follow for more.
Look up the definition of boxing.
Peace to the tribe and welcome. How we all doing tonight?
Peace. What's up?
You know, it's your boy AD. I got my other co-host here with me, my boy Breeze. Breeze, man, what's the vibes tonight? How you feeling? What's the thoughts and vibes of the Hierophants Book Club tonight, man? What's up with it, brother?
Man, we're here to talk about the mind and more specifically cognitive bandwidth. But the vibes, man, is about self-mastery. You know what I mean? Understanding that you may not ever hit the mark completely, but getting close to the mark as possible is very important. You know what I mean? Like, because the epitome of self-mastery and perfection would be God, you know, and every day we miss the mark, you know, but it's important to get better at getting closer and closer to the mark based off of God's demonstration, you know, and you can look at it through whether you're looking at Shiva, you're looking at nature, and just witnessing the perfection and taking it on. That's why I say the vibes are though, man. Just you know, staying rooted in your practices, your regimens, you know, doing the root like every day, breath work, meditation, drinking water, you know, those foundational things.
Right. I love those vibes. I love those thoughts, bro. And absolutely, and especially on the root locks, making sure we really drink our water. I literally just read that in Chakra Nova, you know, as we were just discussing things, but the just some high quality water if you can, you know what I'm saying? Some good spring water, high Mopti Valley. If not, you know, just get the best water you can, just drink it. You know, you can make your water really good and fire just by adding all types of electrolytes, you know, Celtic salt, you know, people use pink Himalayan salt.
Yeah,
you know?
pink Himalayan salt. I love that.
Yeah, so it's all types of things you can do. But yeah, I just mess with that vibe, bro. The one thing too, when it comes to just like the Hierophants Book Club, we always want to just realize that our mind is like one of our greatest gifts. You know what I'm saying? Understanding that what we do with our mind and what we perceive and our perspective over our reality really matters. So understanding that, you know, that's really a big goal. But to break into that, let's go ahead and drop into cognitive bandwidth, right? Because the video that we played, you know, we had TBC, you know what I'm saying, prime time, you know, really speak on a heavy, crucial mindset and skill that you need, you know, that everyone has and can tap into. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up this right here. on cognitive bandwidth, and boom. Cognitive bandwidth is the brain's limited capacity to process information, make decisions, and manage emotions at any given moment. So, Breeze, brother, what's your take on cognitive bandwidth? Right, when you ran across this, what sparked this download for you, brother?
Uh Man, it just when I heard about the term, it was like, oh, this is a major key. This is something that can help everybody. Hell, this is something that can help your pets. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Um, I think it's a major key, but life because everything is based off of your capacity to continue with whatever you're doing, whether it's your job, your hobby, um working out and doing things to um, develop your cognitive bandwidth. Um, also, hold on, give me 1 second. Just to build on like the definition, it functions like a pool of mental energy rather than a measure of intelligence, dictating how brain power can actively apply to daily tasks. And like it goes on to say, like the key components of cognitive bandwidth is attention, working memory, executive control, um, or executive control, um, emotional regulation. And then, things that drain your cognitive bandwidth are chronic stress and anxiety, scarcity, um, digital overload, which would be what they'll call frequent notifications and context switching, scattered attention, and fatigue the mind. So that's kind of like multitasking.
mm,
You know what I mean? But basically, when we were rapping about it, the thing that really drove the point home of its importance is like working out and doing like combat sports, and how these athletes do this is their life. You know what I mean? This is their livelihood. They put every ounce of their being into becoming a fighter, for boxing for an example. um and it's not really the skill. I mean, styles do make fights, don't get me wrong, but
right, right.
a lot of times, when a boxer has fought, 12 rounds and they're able to stand in the ring in
Mm-hmm.
a line of fire and continue to control their breathing, not be fearful, not uh, want to run and jump out the ring, throw the towel in and stuff like that. Um, this really like drove the point home, because even from my experiences, like I know my limit with sparring. Like
Right. I feel you.
anything past 6 rounds, man, I'm trying to
Mm.
fake it till I make it so I can go home. I want to go. Like once you get to that fight or flight response, that's when your bandwidth is on E basically, or is super low. You know what I
You're right.
mean? And you can have all the physical abilities, you can still have gas in the tank, but once your mind gets to a point where it's like, I can't handle this, it shut down everything.
Yeah,
And with boxing, that's usually when somebody gets knocked out, when they just mentally can't take it anymore. They don't have any more mental capacity to do it anymore.
mhm.
That's usually, when you get knocked out, you know. Um, but yeah, that's the main like point of the conversation with cognitive bandwidth.
Right. I mean, and as we're breaking it down, it makes me think of ways like we can start sharpening our cognitive bandwidth. And really just maybe think about a lot of other fighters, the way they train, like Israel Adesanya. You know how like when he's training, he's doing this type of like punching technique where he's like stimulating his mind and he's reacting to the lights and he has to hit them on command.
Hmm.
You know, when he does that, is that's like I feel like that's a way of training cognitive bandwidth because it's like you know there's ways you can do it along with physical activities because as a fighter you have to build that. But also when it comes to like let's say, well, AD Breeze, I'm not a fighter, bro. I'm a musician. Okay, great. That's when you can start breaking things down into going to meditative practices. You know what I'm saying? Like, and plus, Breeze, what's ways like, because you a musician, you code with it. What's some ways like you can think about you can improve your cognitive bandwidth with that skill? You know,
Hmm.
because it's like yeah, people who see the fighter is like, okay, like I know I can work out and train that, but how would I do it for this skill?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things, like just in my studies,
Mhm.
um, with studying jazz, you know what I mean, and developing as a jazz musician, um, one thing my jazz theory book said that as a musician, you got to get away from reading music because
Mm,
jazz is improvising. It's a feeling. You get what I'm saying? That you're sharing with others through this instrument. Um, and I think overthinking is will fall in the category of low bandwidth. Because you're draining your mental capacity overthinking things. You know what I mean? Have you thought about something so much that you exhausted or you get really hungry or something like that? I remember taking exams my senior year in engineering school
mm.
and sweating after them
Whew.
motherfuckers. Not like, drenched, but like,
But I know
a
you
little
had a little,
sweat on
you
the
had a little tasty.
eyebrows. Yeah, yeah. But like not that was a whole tangent, but
No, you sure?
um not overthinking, you know
Mm.
what I mean? Allowing like spirit to guide you a little bit, kind of like letting spirit be your mind in a way. Is and it sounds cheesy, but just like the analogy, let go and let God,
Right, right.
you know, because it's some stuff that uh but you don't got no control over, and some stuff that don't really concern you, and those things drain your cognitive bandwidth, especially like stress and worrying.
Yeah, you know what Unc said? Unc said if you don't worry about it, you don't got nothing to worry about. So it's just like you gotta really think about in order to when you see people who have this crazy focus or like when we see anime characters, right, bro, we see that guy who just walks in the room like like Hunter x Hunter, right? You know how they could just sense nin presence.
Yeah,
People just hide their presence and they could just let it loose, or just even Dragon Ball Z with the key charging, and
yeah,
bro just like hide his key, or they got in Dragon Ball Z COD, they could hide the pressure and raise their key within. So it's all about really understanding like the development of like inner self and you with your mind, because it's like that gives everything. You know what I'm saying? And like it makes
agreed.
a video where like they break into like the main piece.
Hmm.
So like, I'm gonna play it again. You got
Okay.
anything you want to add or say before I start this up?
um yeah, just on like what you were saying about animes. It's one
Mhm.
called Yu Yu Hakusho, and it's a character named Togoro, and basically, he can make his body at 100% strength, and
Mm,
once he's at 100% strength, on the show he'll be at 40%, 80%, but once he actually showed 100%, um people on the show started fainting because they just couldn't be in his presence.
mm,
So it's kind of like they didn't have the cognitive bandwidth just to be in his presence, and then with like boxing, it's kind of like if you stay in front of that person and you're not throwing punches or anything, you're
mm.
putting pressure on them. That's affecting their cognitive bandwidth. You get what I'm saying? Or like when you're doing high interval training, You get what I'm saying? And you're working out for 45 minutes straight, but you
Right.
only taking like a minute to a minute and a half breaks in between every set. Or you might take 12 seconds in between each workout. And then after you get done with the whole set, you'll take like a 2 minute break and then you'll get back into it. These kind of things I think helps develop your cognitive bandwidth because you got to reach your limits in order to become stronger. You get what I'm saying? You gotta face the impossible. That's what I would say. Like even like studying jazz early on, like that shit felt impossible. Like how
Right.
the fuck am I gonna do this? How am I gonna be this? Or even with like
Astrology. That's
box.
the code astrology, bro.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
real.
Once you face something that you feel is impossible, but something that you really want to do, something that's really on your heart and your spirit, that's when you begin to, I would say, expand like your cognitive bandwidth.
Yeah.
Because once you feel like something's impossible, that's when you kind of experience a sense of depletion. But constantly meeting depletion, and even with like I was saying, like working out.
Right.
You go to the gym to face your weaknesses. You know what I mean? Like you working out until failure. You know what I mean? You going to max out. Every day you go in the gym, you getting stronger, but you get what I'm saying? Like you experiencing like your breaking point every time.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
you know what I mean? So it's yeah, it's pretty cool. That's
I
what I
mean,
wanted to
and
say
you can
about it.
do it. And we was like we said earlier too, a working memory. You know what I'm saying? Like that's another way to like just train your memory. Because like imagery, you don't
Mm-hmm.
even have to like put words to it. You can just remember the images, and then once you understand the images so much, because that's how you activate symbolism. It's ways you can talk to your soul, your inner self through symbols using images. So it's just like, I'm not saying put images on the boxing glove, you might get your ass popped, but I'm talking about in meditative practice and doing things to help you increase your memory with word, or because that's one thing about cognitive bandwidth it was talking about in a low mind state is that your memory's gonna be bad. Like you sitting there doing something and you just forgot what you just thought about. That's scary.
That's you
You know,
dealing with a high level of stress and anxiety. Yeah.
So yeah. But here I'm gonna drop this video and we're gonna break down some things because we played it earlier, just in case you guys missed it, or just want a deeper breakdown because this is what we get. This video just breaks into that with the 3 steps. So
Please, please look up the definition of boxing.
It depends. Most people say that the art of boxing is to hit and not get hit. But that's the what. It's not the how. The first thing that anyone has to do to learn boxing is one, you have to understand cognitive bandwidth. That's how much you can hold up here in your brain.
So right, we
Mm-hmm.
explained that earlier about your memory, like being
Mm-hmm.
able see to remember shit. You don't have to be smart. To remember something is to remember how to put something away when your mama told you to. You know what I'm saying? Memory and remembering something and holding something in your mind is holding a particular thought and expanding on that thought constantly every day. And when you build that space of thoughts in your mind, that becomes literally your perception of that particular thing. So
Mm-hmm.
you
And
know,
and
go ahead, bro.
and it's kind of like how to do it. You know what I mean? Like your ability to like do tasks is a part of like the cognitive bandwidth.
Right.
And like I just wanted to mention like with this download, I had a lot of notes and stuff like that, and I put some of it into ChatGPT
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like a perfect analogy is like the RAM on a
Mm,
computer, which is also called like the working memory, or quote unquote cognitive load.
okay.
Um, and one thing it said about the RAM when I made the analogy, it was like RAM is the amount of information a computer can actively process at once. Similarly, cognitive load refers to how, or cognitive bandwidth
Mm,
refers to how much information your brain is actively holding and can manipulate while performing a task. You get what I'm saying? So,
Right.
like, to your point, like, your memory has all these things, like, for instance, making dinner. You know
Mm,
what I mean? You might be making, um, let's just use the analogy of like Thanksgiving dinner, mac
right.
and cheese, greens, stuffing, turkey. You got all this working memory. You not reading no,
Years, bro.
you're not reading no, excuse me, no recipe. You might have
Mm,
it nearby because you might feel taxed. You know what I mean? Your bandwidth might go down as the day goes on, but you
mm,
got to work your memory of how to do that. And then say you don't have an ingredient, the store is closed. You know how to pivot and these type of things. You know what I mean? We're just trying to elucidate what cognitive bandwidth is. But
right.
one example is like the RAM or the working memory on your computer. Because the working memory isn't something that's like it's not like the hard drive. You get what I'm saying? Like where everything is saved. That's more so your um your subconscious is like the hard
Mm,
drive. You get what I'm
right,
saying?
right, 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 right.
The RAM is more so
Also,
right next to your or it's more of a function of your consciousness. You know what I mean? It's like the mechanical parts that's like moving and doing and stuff like that. Like you need your cognitive bandwidth to learn, to speak. You know what I mean? But
of
you
course.
could play the video. We could we
Right,
we
right,
can
right, right,
talk more about it.
right.
So you can't have mindset and you can't have strategy if you don't have a cognitive bandwidth. You're running the cognitive load and all of it'll crash.
Like all them punches add up. You know, punches in sparring add up.
Two, the next thing they'll need is understanding structure integrity. This is the physical part of boxing. This is drilling muscle memory. When they drill the muscle memory properly, then everything else aligns itself.
So the muscle memory was literally like what bro explained about cooking. You know, you learn how to cook by grabbing those ingredients, mixing them, know when to stir it, know when to take it off the stove, know when to take it out the oven. After a while, it becomes muscle memory. That's how your mom
Hmm.
be able to touch the grease
Yeah.
inside the stove because her hand is so swelled up and welts from the grease that it's plastic now. She used to it. She,
Yeah.
touching it, flipping it out, and it's like, all right, I'm cool. Y'all can eat. I'm gonna eat now. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I would also say it's kind of like, when you look at it in the lens of spirituality, is is your regiment. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
knowing how to uh replenish your cognitive load, you know what I mean, or bandwidth is understanding like, okay, I got meditation, I have ashwagandha, I got maca root, I could take a bath, um I can fuck with the mushrooms. I can fuck with the cannabis. You get what I'm saying? I can
right.
go to sleep early. Um, Fasting, like understanding maybe classical music, like
Mhm.
understanding the things that help replenish it. You know what I mean? That so that it can help you continue. Because I can imagine that kind of like what Bud Crawford said, all those punches add up. So throughout the day, you know, it's like the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Like
Mm,
more and more things happen, more and
right.
more things happen. And you have to understand or have some type of muscle memory on, okay, what do I do when I am stressed? Do I let it
Mhm.
overtake me and I crash out?
Or do I
You
fucking
know?
scroll? You know what I'm saying? Like, do I go eat? You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta realize, like, you would think, man, I'm lazy, I'm fat, I'm this, I'm that. Nah, bro, you stressed. Your bandwidth has been overtaken, and you
Yeah.
probably been in a low bandwidth from a month or weeks. It's not
Hmm.
for a day because you gotta think about this. When we talk about a mind, we're talking about a frequency as well. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about
Hmm.
waves as well, alpha, beta, gamma. So you got to realize where you operate most of the time too. because you going to sleep and waking up at particular times can help you activate certain brain waves to help you snap out of it. But if you don't know how to do that, you know what I'm saying? Tap in with the Heritage Book Club Instagram, where we got a series of books where we go over and we'll do that with you guys because this is a process that you constantly work on and you build the muscle memory for. You know what I'm saying? Because like bro said, it loads up over time. But I'm gonna resume. G, you ready?
Yup.
And none of it works without number three, is what we call organized nervous system. If an athlete goes into a fight and his nervous system isn't organized, all of the stuff that he learned before, the minute pressure spikes, everything goes kaput.
And then it just all hit him out of the blue.
That's why you see it every weekend. Somebody comes up short because of cognitive load. So those are the three areas. They don't call it just plain boxing unless you're talking about fitness. When you talk about executing in the fight game, this is why they call it the sweet science of boxing, because it's not about what you do, it's how you do it and what's the mechanism behind this thing called boxing. Follow for more.
The thing I love about boxing being the analogy for it is like it's just straight to the point. You get what I'm saying? Like it's straight to the point. Like because you can look at every day as some type of battle. You get what I'm saying? And not from a negative place, but a challenge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not an obstacle, a challenge. Something that's going to, you know, um, make you sharper, make you stronger, make you smarter. Um,
Well, and think about this, brother, too. Like
mhm,
for the panel as well. When we think about, um, these are martial aspect. Dealing with Mars,
right.
God award energy. So for the men and women, make sure you're dealing with your counterpart deity, or your conscious mind. So basically, if you're a female, deal with male deities. Man, just understand the story and just the other side you locked away. But to get to the point is that, you know, Mars and his energy and what we're doing when we're going through his war, we're going through a place of purification. So it's not, dealing with, this place of we in this crazy war. Like, sure, yeah, if we want to get into deeper things about what's going on, sure, and so ever. But when we talk about a place of inner workings, we gotta realize we go through a war of purification of the self and the mind. And when we get to the nervous system, we gotta realize what things are being activated within us in a state of fight and flight, and how we can, activate it with our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic system. So, Breeze, when you think about the HPA, what's ways that you activate it, you work with it, and just advise people can just start working with their nervous system, per se. I'm trying to zoom in on this picture if you want to.
Yeah. So I will say the first thing, my bad. I was eating a cracked pepper pretzel. But so the HPA axis is like your body main stress response system. And for those that doesn't don't know, the hormone responsible for stress is cortisol. And you know how it works. So the H stands for the hypothalamus,
Mhm.
the pituitary gland, then the adrenal gland. And the hypothalamus basically it senses, you know, um, it takes in the triggers. You know what I mean? So you're feeling stressed, so it's like okay, we're stressed, and it releases the hormone to the pituitary gland, which is also called the master gland.
Mhm.
And the pituitary makes it into a precursor for cortisol. And once it gets down to the adrenal glands, which is over the kidneys, the adrenal glands are right on top of the kidneys. It becomes cortisol, and then cortisol makes your body stiff.
Inflammation
It
pops up, mucus, yeah.
it impacts your health from the top down, shortness of breath, high blood pressure, and this is from like chronic stress, like high blood pressure.
Right.
Um, it just disrupts your natural biorhythms and stuff like that. Not being able to sleep, not having an appetite, um, not able to regulate your emotions and things like that. And we kind of spoke on it a little bit, but just having that spiritual regimen,
Right.
you
Right.
know what I mean? Like not letting your biology just be out here with no type of tools. You get what I'm saying? Because
Mm,
your cognitive bandwidth will be, you know, ready for you to go to bed at like noon. If you didn't have any type of thing, you get what I'm saying? Like you go outside and do a couple things. "Oop, I need to go to bed. Like that's the day, you
right.
know. So but like I was saying, like meditation,
Mm,
dealing with herbs, ashwagandha, maca root, um, there's plenty of other herbs, licorice,
right.
um,
Mugwort. It just all depends on
mugwort.
like, what you're trying to work with. Cause like you don't always have to just say like you're trying to work with a particular spirit. You just want to just probably work with, clear your gut microbiome. You probably want to lose.
Hmm.
You probably want to be able to pass stoolage easier. You know what I'm saying? Because when we think about these aspects of ourselves, each of the planets, connect to a body part within us to be able to release and because we hold on to things. We gotta realize when energy gets stuck, we gotta pass stuff through. So,
Hmm.
alcohol is important, the water is important. That's why we say working out is really key because
Yeah.
stress is a good thing. Is we need it for our bodies and our minds, for the challenge and growth. But at the same time, it's understanding how to handle the stress where it doesn't be overload. You know,
Yeah.
it's
And it's
like
not dominating your life.
right, right. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes people chase like stress in a way too, where it's like through the activity or a high. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta
Hmm.
realize, this is also ways to activate, altered state of consciousness. You don't even need, drugs or the herbs, because you can know how to activate it with your body by just working out, by doing pure exhaustion, by doing just pure breath work. It's just all about your muscle memory repetition because if you don't have a strong rate of where you constantly practiced it, it's gonna take time. But once you get
Right.
there, you're gonna be able to activate your sweat whenever you need it. Like, because when it's time to warm up, you know how to do a few jumping jacks, and boom, you sweaty. Or when you at work, you moving around, you got that pace to you because you activated your body to get going.
Yeah. 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 And it's hard for you to experience like attacks on your cognitive bandwidth because you can fall back on like the muscle memory. You get what I'm saying? It's like, oh, I don't even have to think about this. I know how to do this.
Hmm.
You get what I'm saying? And it's simple. Like you know what I mean? You don't feel like you used up too much energy as opposed to say it's a new job and you learning all this stuff. You know what I mean? You go home and you like, man, I'm taking a shower and go to bed. That's like the difference between like, muscle memory and then developing muscle memory from zero.
No, that's 100%. I was answering a question, a comment, because they said we named some good herbs and drinks, and they was wondering, should we burn them as well, and like what's the preference? And it's just all about what you like to do. If you like the smell, like if you got this like for me, I like to use incense a lot because when I get the smell of the aroma, it just it makes me relax easier, or it makes the headache probably go away from me. Like we probably burn sage, it's just all the vibe and what you're doing at the particular time. And
Yeah.
if you like ingesting things, drinking a tea, help cool your body, or you want something cold, you don't always have to drink hot tea. You can drink cool tea. Like only time I say, if you really want some hot tea, it's probably like in the morning when you want to cool your ogun. You know what I'm saying? Learn that from the hood mystic. I'll show the road. But so it's just like just aspects of like what you like to work with, just trial and error. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
then once you build a muscle memory, you probably have a kettle in the kitchen always, a kettle in the office. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have a certain tea. Like I drink this in the morning when I wake up because a good book too. Because like when we think about activating these particular glands in our body and systems, and using herbs, it's all you can always base it off what you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Because like you got stimulants like coffee. You know what I'm saying? The book "Food of the Gods" is a good one. I'm pretty sure that's by Terrence McKenna, right? Food of
That
the Gods.
sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's where they just got into talking about tea, coffee, and just a lot of things that stimulants and like using them because like we and tobacco as well. Like
Yeah.
we gotta realize like what we use to also give us quick boost for our bandwidth. And
Hmm.
like sometimes we don't realize that, this probably taken away. Like you might have a person who want to take a shot, you know what I'm saying? They get them going, like a fireball or, you know what I'm saying? Or you could take cayenne pepper, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Cayenne pepper. I stand by cayenne pepper. Ginger root too. Like things that kind of like get the blood flowing. And I don't think ginger root is a stimulant, but every
Mhm.
time I take ginger root, I feel it. You know what I mean? Like I can
Right,
tell it's in my system. My blood is flowing. Um, my stomach, is at peace per se. Because we talked about cognitive bandwidth, muscle memory. Oh, and also a regulated nervous system.
right,
Um, and it made me thinking like the parasympathetic nervous system. Um, and I got a definition in front of me. It's a part of your auto. Hold on. Autonomic or autotomic.
hmm
I don't know. A part of your autonomic nervous system that controls your body's ability to relax, rest, and digest food. It works in direct contrast to the sympathetic nervous system, which is your flight or fight nervous system, by lowering your heart rate, saving energy, and improving digestion.
hmm
So it's kind of like when the I remember shout out to Prime Harmony. He told me that you could think of the parasympathetic system and the sympathetic system is kind of like a brake and the gas on a car, and whereas like the sympathetic nervous system is like the gas, the fight or flight. And then the parasympathetic is the it's the break. It's relaxing. You know what I mean? So being able to, keep them in balance,
Yeah,
because they both play a purpose. It's not like one is more important than the other. But I
right,
think, in the world we live in, it's
mhm,
important to really prioritize rest. You know what I
right,
mean? And things that help regulate your nervous system. Like I really like the how you brought up working out. You know what I mean? Because people always think of like, oh, you got to be quiet, you got to do peaceful things, and all. Sometimes getting in that gym, you know what I mean, throwing around kettlebells and push-ups and running and hitting the stairmaster. Sometimes that's therapy as well. You know what I
right.
mean? Sometimes, after a long day at work, man, I'll feel like mentally taxed and physically not wanting to do it. But once I get in there, I'm like, yeah, I needed this,
Yeah,
and then I
yeah,
can go home. I ain't worried about shit. I'm about to eat me some food and go to sleep.
right. It's just
Um,
like man, like it just activated. It's like you just learned how to activate your systems, when you need
mhm,
to. Like, all right, fight or
mhm.
flight. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing the activity. All right, I'm home. I'm finna rest. I'm drinking this tea a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because your
Yeah,
body's gonna be running when you sleep. So, you might be digesting food still. If you drink some tea, that's gonna help you. But sometimes we might end up like have some alcohol or a soda or something. So we just gotta be like mindful of those things, at particular times. Like maybe prioritize it, midday and not before we go to sleep.
Yeah,
You know? Try to make that a better habit. 'Cause
yeah.
I, you know, be
I
even
really
you
like
work out so much, you want some sugar sometimes.
yeah, for sure. um, dang, I forgot what I was about to say. It was something about working out. It'll come back to mind.
Man, on me, that's that bandwidth, man. We've been at it,
Yeah.
you know, like but that's how we know we've been doing it. And I know, bro, he when he get off this, he gonna meditate.
Yeah, man.
I just know how bro is.
Yeah.
But
Oh, what I was gonna say is breath work. So
mm,
breath work is something that you can utilize no matter where you're at. And the beautiful thing about the breath is that it's always present. So focusing on your breath helps you consciously stay present, because anxiety, one of the sources of anxiety is thinking about the past or thinking about the future, obsessing about it, and worrying about it. And these type of things tax your cognitive bandwidth without you even doing anything, you know? That's that's the funny thing about the mind. Like you can literally be sitting on the couch at home thinking about all this shit, and you can literally be in a fight or flight response and you're sitting on the couch in the comfort of your home.
mm,
Is that the mind is like, man, it's something else. But I say all that to say, doing breath work, searching like tantric breathing. It's a book called Rainbow Body Breathing by an author named John Hooks. It's
okay.
JAHNHOOKS. Where he talks about different practices you can do. It's a book by Sandra Ray called Celebration of Breath, and just how, you know, breath work helps regulate your nervous system. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it
Mm-hmm.
helps bring energy through your body, helps bring, spirit through your body or prana through your body or ether, whatever word you want to use. It helps circulate it through your body. And through breathing, you can re energize your body. Um, so that in tandem with whatever other thing you're doing, you know what I mean? Because I think it's a sign of really high cognitive bandwidth when you're under stress and you can continue to go on, because every day is different. Some days is gonna be like, man, this was a long ass day and it still ain't over with. You know what I mean? Sometimes, being able to breathe through it all, being able to, you know, um, stay centered as you possibly can, you know what I mean, within reason with what you have and who you are. Um, but yeah, I feel like just expanding on it, working on it, I think it will help people. You know, this concept will really help people um get more out of life, you know what I mean, and do more of whatever it is that they desire, they want to do in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because really activating your body is like the one of the spiritual keys and tools like you need along this journey that you need to learn how to do at a high rate. Because it's like when we get sick or per se they say detox, we don't feel the best. We is not as strong. So like if we can be able to cause our body to do it on its own in a proper way, by throughout this turns and seasons, not just trying to do one big thing and hurt ourselves by just eating the right foods, making sure we just drinking our teas, just making sure we having our processes. So like we watching what's going on, you know what I'm saying? So that's like the true one of the key goals you need because you know and you might be a person who's like might be bigger than me and bro. You might be taller, you might be shorter, but it's just you have to learn your body and then learn what works for you because everyone's different, you know. But all of us sharing, telling it, this is what I like to do, or I'm a chef at this, like it just opens up, all this information out there. So we just gotta learn how to
Hmm.
process it right and not overload.
Hmm.
Yeah, well,
Agreed.
I really mess with this dog. This what you said also remind you of Jean Grey, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. So Jean Grey, I said that she had a very like low cognitive bandwidth because
Mm,
oh, it's no denying like she's probably top three strongest Marvel character in the Marvel
yeah,
universe. Like she's
yeah,
extremely powerful. She can change the she can change reality on a molecular level. Like it's ridiculous. But she always got migraines. She always got headaches. And she's always somewhere like or laying in the bed and
man. No matter what, yeah,
she can't help nobody, you know what I mean? Because her cognitive bandwidth is so low, you know what I mean? But as you know, you watch it, you find out like, dang, she's so strong that her body can't even
keep up,
handle the power that's within her. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy to point where,
and
you
she's
know,
slow.
yeah, like so, but then you look at somebody like Wolverine, high cognitive bandwidth, because that motherfucker will fight all day, you know? And plus, you know, he got the
Yeah, 'cause they
regenerative factor for the nerds out there. Like, so Wolverine is ready to fight all the time, anytime.
they gave
but
him like antimanium, right?
yeah, yeah, yep. The antimanium.
But
That's
what's stronger, antimanium or vibranium?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think vibranium is stronger. I think.
Okay,
I think. Um, I don't know though. That's a question for Marvel though.
right.
I know the answer is out there though. But I would guess vibranium.
Yeah, because you know vibranium came from you know, like, cause basically Black Panther he owns like you know a few galaxies, so
Mm-hmm.
you know you know, and then they got that rock from Bassett, I'm pretty sure, like, as they first said,
Mm.
came as it fell from the comet. You know what I'm saying? And then I think Bassett's with like Venus, right? Venus has
Yes, yes,
yeah.
the
So like
segment is kind of like Mars.
right. So that makes me just think about like the comet of Venus. You know what I'm saying? Coming into that land, and they got the purple heart fruit, you know, or that core and the vibranium along with that. So
Mm-hmm.
because the vibranium hit the land and it spread in the land and started growing that fruit, basically.
Yeah,
So they harvested it and ate it, and then it made, you know, Black Panthers, you know, throughout the whole tribe. So they said, okay, it can only be one tribe. So I think it became like, you know, the the main family, but you know, everybody could challenge and come take it. So
yeah, yeah,
it's a crazy process when you think about, you know, all these esoteric stories within, you know, these things we watch. You know, they're great entertainment, but it's also realizing like what's in front of us and what's been telling to us, you know, in
yeah.
small details.
They repackaging the science and selling it back to you as
Right,
as entertainment though.
right. What's another way to call it? A predictive programming, right? Like that's what they
Mm-hmm.
love to say, but sometimes we just gotta see it for what it is and you know what we can do because at the end of the day, we're powerful. We have our own mind. Like you
Right,
can't, you know, we have spirit, we have that within us. So like you can't
right.
ain't no battle we can't, you know, overcome because we know what true war is. You know, I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather be, you know, a warrior in the garden instead of, you know, that. Anything you want to add and break down to it, bro?
Uh, yeah. No, I'd rather be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war.
Hmm.
You know, staying ready so you ain't gotta get ready because there's always gonna be a short notice with life. There's always
Yeah.
gonna be a short notice. It ain't nothing. I mean, you know, sometimes you can read the signs and get yourself prepared, but like,
Mhm.
you know, this is life. You know what I mean? Like, the only thing for certain is change. You know, there's no place of certainty in life. So you must develop your cognitive bandwidth so you can be ready for whatever life throws at you,
Yeah.
whatever comes up, you know. Not saying that you got to be Superman, you know what I mean, because it's going to be, it's going to be different things that's going to come up in life, and it's going to have effect on you and your environment. But
But you
yeah,
just know
like I
you
said.
rise. But just know you rise to the occasion of your trade.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm,
you don't show up for it because you try. You know, you're a hero. It don't work like that.
mhm.
So what you doing is how you over time is what you gonna show up for the occasion. So you gotta remember that.
Sure, sure, for sure.
All right, man. Well, make sure you guys check out the Heritage Book Club Instagram. Go follow the YouTube as well. It's the same thing. We got this video posted there and all on platforms. If you're now just getting here, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Go ahead, follow all below and hit us up, ask questions, join the Discord, and have a great one. Peace.
Yes, sir. Peace.